Hi everyone, just a quick welcome and a quick audio check if anyone has already logged in. If you can just put a comment in the comments section, say yes we can hear you, that'll be fantastic. Hi everyone, welcome to this hybrid shooting retouching session. Just want to do a quick sound check. If you can type in the comments thumbs up or yes you can, something like that, that'll be fantastic. We'll be on shortly. Hi guys, and welcome to this broadcast brought to you by BenQ and Calibrite. Thanks for joining us for the retouching session. You should have got some raw files that we're going to go through today. If we can just do a quick audio check, so if you can just sort of drop in the comments for me, those who are there, if you can hear me nice and loud and clear, that will be a massive help. Just want to make sure you can hear me clearly. Just type away. There is about a 30-second delay, so maybe a little bit there. We're going to talk about the different color checkers today and how we use them, and actually how to use the color checker software, and we're also going to do some retouching quick edits as well. I am from a film background originally and then went to digital, so actually, ironically, editing is one of my nemesises, but so I try and keep it as short as possible. So at the end of the day, I like to keep it simple, get it right in camera, and do it that way. The monitor I'm using today is the SW271C. It's also got a big brother, the SW321C. The C stands for USB-C, which is very, very handy these days as well. And I've said it time and time again, when you're using these monitors, it is like absolutely just editing on photographic paper. But now the monitors are hybrid, so that with video coming more into the industry as well, which we're going to touch on today as well. In two ways, we're going to look at 4K and 6K photography and how to edit that. We're going to look at how to edit your film and color balance and color manage that, as well as stills as well. But having a hybrid screen makes things very, very easy. I've got a lot of bright lights sort of bouncing around here, and I've got a hood on my 271C, which makes life a lot easier. I've got no reflection hitting that, and it's got a very, very flat screen, so that makes life easy for me as well. So if we flick over to my monitor, you will see we have a beautiful color checker there. And so how do we use that? And thank you for the thumbs up, guys. And some people are turning up their volume a little bit and saying it's a little bit quiet, so Pete's on that. Hopefully you should hear me nice and clear now. So if we look at the color checker here, when you hold a color checker, this is actually the wrong way to hold it, but this is purely for demonstration purposes. You can get a nice accurate thing. You should really hold it up by the face so you can get accurate skin tones. But what we've got here, we've got various different warmths. And every part of the day, we're sort of faced with different color temperatures, and we don't even realize it. If you look outside now, you look at daylight, that's actually blue. The lights inside, and you look at the lights behind me, if we just go back to camera 2, you look at the lights behind me, there's a nice blend of warmth. And if we go back to camera 2, there's a nice blend of warmth. So we've got the nice blend of daylight, and you see the warmth coming across my arms as well. And also the LEDs behind. LEDs are again a different color temperature. So all these play and mix very, very well. And sort of a really good reference point on color temperature is the movie Joker. So if you want to watch Joker, and there's some beautiful graded colors and how they use color in there, that's very, very clever. So back to my monitor and back to the color checker. So this is the color checker passport photo. It's a passport because it fits in your pocket. It's as simple as that. And when we edit it, and this is an unedited image as well, so you'll just see my mouse coming in here now, and there's various ways you can do it. As you can see down here, we've got different warmths going from cold, going up to warm, and same with our skin tones here. If you're using Lightroom, a good quick shortcut on your keypad is D, and that'll take you into develop mode. We jump into develop mode, and then if you look on the right hand side, we've got a nice little droplet here. So I'll pick up that droplet, and I want to go and pick on the grey here, and that is going to give me my color temperature. As simple as that. And you're sort of thinking, it's that simple. Now you look at them side by side, and there's quite a difference. You don't really notice how warm the image on the left is until you've correctly white balanced it. And then the skin tones are right, the fabric color is right, the hair is right, and this is all extremely important when you're photographing clients. So you get the skin tone, you don't want to have too much magenta, you don't want to have too much cyan, or you don't want to have too much yellow in there. So you want to have the colors right, and if you get it right in camera the first time, that makes it easy for you. And by taking a reference point and using a color checker, you can get that reference point with every different lighting situation. Now, this color checker just doesn't just do white balance. You can also create a profile with it. So what does that profile do? So when we've got our cameras and we've got all our different profiles, you may like, I really like the look of this lighting situation. I'm going to use my color checker and I want Lightroom to create a profile for me. So what does that mean? So all you need to do, just hop back and get the single picture. Now you can either crop in, normally you should crop in a bit so you get the, so you can actually scan and analyze the color checker even more, just get it nice and even. This is also the correct way to hold a color checker. There is a video you'll see later, and the person who was holding actually holds the color checker wrong. They put their fingers over the color checker, and you want to keep these colors as clean as possible because they're scientifically printed, and you want to keep them clean so you get an accurate reading. So we have this, I've cropped in a bit, and I'm going to go back to export, which is E on your keypad for a shortcut. Hit export, and I want to go down, and I want to go down to the presets, and I'm going to name this Emma Color 1. Just make sure I click on this, and I'm going to export that. So what it's doing now, that is actually just reading all those different colors. It's making a calculation on all those colors, and it's creating a specific profile based on that lighting situation. So in your camera you may have standard, natural, dynamic. Well, this is actually creating a profile that is custom to you. So as its processes go through this, and because this is live, we can't speed it up, so that's the joy of it. And because it's live, and I've practiced this earlier, I went through really, really quickly, and now the joys of wonderful things, it says it's been created. Okay, once you create a profile, you have to restart Lightroom. That's just part of the game. So it's processing the profile now. Then I'm going to just click off, close it down. Yes, quit. We'll skip that this time, and we're going to open that back up. Just jump into Lightroom, that opens it back up. So if we just jump back to camera 1, you can see my beautiful face where that opens up, or 2 I should say. And we're just opening it back up, and what happens when you restart it, it'll add that profile to your profile list. Now that moved around, I think a couple of seasons ago in Lightroom. So it used to be way down the bottom on the right hand side. So I'm just going to jump in, it's going to say no photos, and everything's going to run slowly because I want it to run fast. It's like watching the kettle boil sometimes. So we jump into develop, which is D on your keypad, which I told you before. We go along to treatment. Below treatment, you'll see Adobe Color, and you'll see all these wonderful Adobe things. But we don't want Adobe. We want to jump into Browse. And now you can see the profiles which have been created. Emma Color 1. So now I've got that in there, and I can keep that profile that I've created. And it's as simple as that. People get into their heads that creating a color profile using the color checker is very, very complicated, and it's not. I can do it, so it's not complicated. So that's the really quick way of sort of creating using the software that's built in as a plugin, and you can download that from the color checker website, and there's loads of videos out there if you're not sure, and explaining how to use it as well. So let's jump in and have a quick look at some edits. So we've got quite a few images we can edit here. There's a lot to choose from. This is a nice simple one. It's very clean, very bright. Now I quite like, now I've got all my presets that I create down on the left hand side myself. I go from somber to food, and I create actually presets based on jobs, as you can see, Kyoto food and so on. But this is straight out of camera, nothing has been done to this, and these are nice big large files that were sent to you. Amazing skin, and we were talking about shooting last week. It's really important to have the highlights in those eyes. And if you want to have a good look at highlights, just a F on your screen, and it should go large, like so. So what do we want to do to this image? It's one of those images that are so clean that you almost don't want to touch as well. But I want to make sure that the light is right. Now this is the same lighting situation as earlier. So we're going to, remember we went to develop. Just jump back into that. My screen is just frozen. And we grabbed our color checker just to make sure. And all I'm going to do, we're highlighted down here. And I'm going to scroll along and highlight our favorite photo there. Now, there's a million ways to do these things. This is the way I just tend to operate. And it tends to work for me. Someone else may look at it and go, oh, I do it differently, and that's cool. Now, look at those side by side. The image on the right is so much cleaner already. The whites are purer. The skin tone is nicer. It's not as warm. Although the warmth is quite nice on the left, but it gives you those options and it gives you that base start from where you can start from. You can see the color temperatures on the left have changed, on the right hand side have changed a little bit, but it's very subtle. But when you're talking about colors and you're getting the colors right, and that's what the color of the jacket was like last week as well. So now I may look at that and think, I'll look at that in black and white. I'll even look at that and it's desaturated. Do I want to do any changes to it? And I'll be honest with it, the only change I may want to do is actually do a crop. And crop is one of the most powerful tools you can do in an edit as well. The hands are nice, the hands are at the side, it's not the back of the hands or anything like that. It's a nice crop. We could even just do a crop at the top of the head. And that would be it for me. So if we go on, say, to the next image and have a look as well, red's a great color to edit, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute because this is one of the images that really stuck out to me as well. It's one of those things when you're just working away and your model that you're working with will just immediately just get that pose and you'll say, just hold that, do it again. And it's sometimes one of the hardest things to do. So I'm just highlighting my color checker because I know that's the right color temperature, the right white balance. I'm going back and I'm just synchronizing it. You can see the difference. She's a little bit on the yellow side here, and this is a much cleaner color. So again, if I drop down, and I'm just going to play with the highlights here a little bit, and you'll see the difference coming up in the jacket. And then pull the shadows, push the whites a little bit, and a little bit more black, and then slight contrast, a little bit there, and that's how I will do an edit based on that. So I'm starting with my base color, and my base color is based on my color checker, and then I'm going from there. This would also look really good black and white. And that's just, you're more than welcome to take a screenshot, and you can see my presets on the right hand side. You can use those and create those yourselves. They work really good. That, as you can see, at Black and White Studio, which I've created myself, works really good on every black and white on this particular setting. But try and get into the habit of creating your presets and saving them for yourself as well. So another good one to look at, and another good thing about Lightroom, and you will notice I'm not diving into Photoshop. So this is a different angle, and if you saw this shot last week, you might have wondered what was going on. So this was the result to the light being completely side on to Emma. And normally I won't do a profile shot because it can be quite unflattering, but you've got this nice big hair which looks absolutely fantastic. And the way to just edit this super quick, if you use the brackets tool, it'll enlarge the size of your pixel. So I'm just going to go up here, choose I want to sort of heal, and I'm just going to scroll over all of this, and then it's going to disappear and make my life easier. Now, if you're worried about things like spots or anything, and you've got dust spots, once you click on the brush tool, you'll see a visualize spots turn up. And if I click on that, it inverts everything, and I can have a look and see if there's any dust spots. and there's not. There's only a beauty spot on Emma. So we've got this really nice colour going on, but I know this is going to look pretty cool black and white as well. It looks really, really strong. But to start, have a really good black and white, people think, well, we're talking about colour, but black and white needs to have that colour control and calibration so you can get the tones. If you don't have your good colour management in place, you're not going to have the tones that work well in black and white. So again, I've gone black and white. That looks absolutely beautiful, but it looks quite good, really good. And I actually quite like, I'm torn between looks at the moment, and I do this. I have this love-hate relationship with my photos. I look like in black and white one day and then colour the next. But I'm actually going to just grab our colour checker, which is right next to Emma, sync it so it's got the same settings. And you'll notice that's cooled that whole image down completely. So the background is a lot bluer, but I quite like that look as well. And it's really simple. And when you've got someone with lovely skin like this, it does make it really easy as well. So some people may retouch a beauty spot out, or, you know, laughter lines. I think that's a character of a face and really want to keep it in as well. So if anyone's got any questions on editing or anything like that, please pop it in and I'll answer as we go along. If you've got questions on color management, please pop them in the questions as well, and we'll pop them up so we can answer them as we go along. So last week, we didn't really get time to explain the passport video, color checker passport video. So we did a really short little video for you, and this was Emma, and it just sort of show you what it's going to look like. And then we're going to dive into Premiere Pro and I sort of take you through that process. And after that, we're going to look at 4K photos as well. So roll VT, as they say. So Emma, tell me how you first got into presenting.
Well, the Welsh language has been a massive part of my career.
Hi guys, thanks, welcome back. So that's a really quick sort of demo on how not to hold a color checker. If you hold a color checker, you want to not touch the elements as well, and you want to hold it by the plastic and hold it like that. But I'm going to sort of show you now from that film. You may have noticed there was a change in color as well. That there was a change in color, which was just some of the grading, but also some of the color correction. I'm going to show you how that works now. So we're going to dive into Premiere Pro, and you can see on my screen here, which I just grab a picture of Emma. So we start with, and this is the video you just watched. So we want to do a grading and get it right. And the similar sort of process that you use in Lightroom, you grab the little droplet and you go over, and you can see straight away that's become immediately warmer. When you were watching the video before as well, what was really apparent is the lighting setup. And I'll just quickly talk about that before I go back to the color management. So the lighting setup, as you can see here, there is a big bay window and it's got a lot of daylight coming in. So that's great. So that's your sort of secondary light source. And that's quite nice on the side. If you look at my light here, you'll see my light up on the right hand side here. So that's my primary light source. So that's going to create some light for Emma. And also I've placed a lamp behind her as well, because that adds depth. So you can see the lamp created behind here, and this is what happens when I go and do some grading. So now, this is the correct color temperature. So now I'm going to go into Control, Copy. Now all the colors in here I want to apply to Emma in here. And this looks quite flat. So if I just go Control Paste Attributes, all of that, and you can see it come up warm straight away, and you'll notice the warmth is increased on here. I can also go in and grade that slightly, my highlights, shadows, or other way I want to do it, and then blacks as well, and then maybe just bring that exposure down just for the light in the background because that's a little bit hot. Okay, and I now can copy that, and I can apply that to the next video. So you get this continuity going through. So even though I've got cuts going on here, I can apply all that to the final video as well. And this was the final video of Emma talking about how she got into presenting. So it's the same principle when you're doing video, except video you've got to think about lighting and depth and sound and all those little things as well. But the principles are the same. The color management is the same. And if we jump back right to the start, you'll also notice on the color checker, there's 3 bands on the left-hand side here, and those are to help you with your exposure settings. So in videos, you'll have zebra stripes, which you'll go in, and if those are too hot, you can dial it down. So it helps you get your exposures absolutely bang on. When you're also using the color checker video, there is a black glossy strip as well, and you do not want that to be glossy when you're taking a reading. You just want that to be nice and matte, how this is here. So if we go back now to good old Lightroom, I'll bring us back into Lightroom, the wonderful world of Lightroom. Now some of you guys may be wondering, we did some 6K video last week as well. And 6K video is a really cool way to capture, video, but also the stuff in between. Now Lightroom will recognize 6K video and it will also recognize 4K video. So you can import that in, and it will also import the audio into Lightroom as well. So this is what it looks like when you import audio. This is an MP4 file, and if we click on the little sprocket which is down the bottom here, and if you're wondering how I get this information up here, just hit I on your keyboard and it will scroll through different information for you. Now down the bottom, we've got about 10 seconds worth of all these different frames. Now the beauty about this is that you can see we're getting all the movement that is in between each shot. So if the flash was firing, we would miss some shots. So this shot here, it's really nice. It's really nice leaning back and everything like that. I really like that look. Now if I click on the frame here, it's going to tell me to capture the frame. That's exactly what I do. I want to take a photo of it. And you look down below and the photo has appeared beside. Now sometimes the photo will stack behind the video, and that is because you haven't highlighted the host file, if you like. So now we've got our JPEG created from video. And it's quite a decent size too. It's an 18 megapixel file. And that's what you get from a 6K image. We jump into develop. So we'll look at develop now because that's a JPEG. We can look at our presets. Now I'm just going to manually do this and do it by eye because my monitor is calibrated as well. Create the contrast, highlights, whites up again. And that will actually print really, really nice. And that is a still from a video file. And again, we've got the highlights in the eyes. We've got the nice washed out background. We've got the good, great look. But the key point is also making it how easy it is to edit photos and also video on the monitors as well. So we've jumped into Lightroom. We've edited video and photo on the same monitor. So like I said at the start, if you just joined, I'm actually editing on the BenQ 271SW271C. This is the smaller brother to the SW321C, and the C stands for USB-C as well. So, excuse me, these are pretty much powerhouses, and I've said time and time again, and I keep repeating that, oh, excuse me, that it's like editing on photographic paper. Now I have another computer next to me here, and the glare is quite apparent, and it's bouncing into my face quite a lot, and they're not the greatest to calibrate either. Whereas when you calibrate your monitors, you want to get accurate readings, and you want a monitor that's going to actually do a bit of donkey work for you as well. I've also connected my Xbox to my monitor as well. And that works really well because they've got built-in HDR and HDR10. And you look at that, and the detail in that is absolutely incredible. So when you're playing back HDR video that you've recorded, you're going to see it on these monitors, and that's really, really important as well. It makes your editing easier, and you're going to see the colors that are true, because I used to be the guy who would hold the photograph next to the screen and go, yeah, that's about right. And this is the honest truth. And it's not trust. Our eyes are pretty good. But when you try and do it that way, they're not that good. And when you're using instruments, say like I use a i1 Studio, and that's my calibration tool, but it'll also calibrate my camera, my monitor, my printer, and even my scanner. If we want to use something less, you can get a smaller one, which is Color Checker Display Pro. That will just do your monitor and the ambient light as well. So these are all tools that make your life easy, and it's quite weird because photographers and videographers are notorious for being afraid of color management. And I was one of those. I've been down that road before, and once you get on board with it, your life just becomes so much easier, and you start understanding tones and colors to the point where I recognized a manufacturer, camera manufacturer's new camera that came out. I noticed they had changed the color science. So I worked with this camera manufacturer, and I spotted they had changed color science for the better, and they were surprised that I had noticed it. And that was just because I'm used to this process now, and my eyes are actually seeing the improvements and benefiting from those improvements as well. And as you will too. So it's not a minefield. You get your Color Checker Passport Classic, which is for your photos. So that'll do your white balance. That'll create your profile as well. If you want to go for the Color Checker Classic, you can go for something a bit bigger, which is really nice as well. Helps you with readings and stuff like that. They all do. They'll all give you everything accurate. And if you want to go back to the video one, that's your Color Checker Video Passport. And they even come in different colored tags, so we can't even get them messed up. So it's good for people like me. So sort of embrace it, have a go with it. I can guarantee you, if you're printing and holding your print next to the screen, and then you're do a color calibration, there's going to be a hell of a difference. But it's a worthwhile task doing. So don't be afraid of that. The footage that we saw of Emma earlier, and it's only 40 seconds long, but it may be worth just popping that in again, because it's quite a good little video just to show you the difference on how you actually set up lighting, and also I'll talk you through it as well. So if we could just roll that VT again quickly, because I think it's quite... The focusing ring on the right, and then we've got the card on the right for your management, the window light coming in on the left, and then I'll place the light in on the right to light her. You'll notice the way she does hold it isn't correct, but that was my fault because I didn't tell her how to hold it beforehand. And then obviously picking up the color checker there. So that's correct, but up by the face. But then you don't want to hold it like this because they're quite sensitive, those colors. And there's your focus point there as well. So Emma, tell me how you first got into presenting.
Well, the Welsh language.
Brilliant. So that sort of should make sense now about what I was talking about. So I'm going to dive back in to Lightroom, and I'm just going to show you the difference when I was editing on the red. So earlier I sort of had a look at the photos, and some of the ones that really popped out to me was the red. Red's a simple color that's just striking, especially if you're wearing black underneath or anything like that. It's just a striking color. So I created a profile. It was something I prepared earlier. I created a profile for Emma Red, and you may have seen that earlier. Now you're going to see the difference if I go in, hit browse, This is the profiles that you can create yourself. And if you look at Emma Red, and then you'll see the difference. So on the left is quite blue, and on the right is quite balanced, and it's warmer into the red. And I'm viewing this on a calibrated monitor as well. The 271C is just giving me the perfect result, and I know if I print that now, that is going to absolutely come out spot on. Whereas the one on the left is a bit flat, and it's less dynamic than I want it to be. So I know the client's going to be pretty happy with the one on the right. So that's all I had to do, and I don't really have to do any more work with that. There's no sort of major retouching that needs done. It's ready to go. It's a nice big file as well. People may want to add in backgrounds. There's also room for text. That's some of the reason you'll wonder why I shoot with a lot of space. And if you're wondering what my lighting setup was for these, I'm just going to jump to this shot here. So we get a bit of an idea on what the light setup was. So we had a big like 3-foot octabox to the left and a 90 centimeter deep octa on the right. Now, because of the size of these files as well, we can crop in and we can even use these images. We could even retouch the whole one out, or we can just go use the power of the crop and just retouch and just jump straight in. Rule of thirds, of course, as always. And that quality is very, very good straight away. Now, there's no color management or anything. I haven't done anything. I haven't even used my color checker yet. So I'm just going to go in there, select it, sync it, and then I'm going to show you the before and after. And you can see there's quite a difference. It's very, very warm on the left. So I'm really, really trying to entrench this sort of mindset into you guys so you can see the difference from home and you can understand the difference in color. And as we're sitting here, like the sun's starting to go down, or if we ever see sun here, I don't really know. I'm in Wales. But the sun's going down, and it's getting darker, and the street lights and ambient lights are starting to take over. Things are getting warmer as well. So what's also really important to know is if you're editing on laptops are really, really notorious for changing because you hold them at a different angle, you're moving them around the house. So if you're moving them into a different room all the time, think about maybe attaching that laptop to an external monitor, and then you're going to have accurate color as well, because you would have calibrated that monitor and you'll be ready to go again. Whereas you're moving your laptop around the whole time, you are going to struggle with that. Now, earlier we edited, I'm a bit close in there. Earlier we edited something similar, but I really like the fur coat here and I like the look. And the comment I made last week as well was, don't sort of have the nose breaking the cheek. So you want to have the nose line just inside. And we've got, this was a slight sandwich lit, so it's lit from behind, and there was like a fill light. So the large light here was a fill light. And you can just see the highlights in the eyes, which are really, really nice. Now, really quick edit. All we need to do is just brush out the light. You could crop it out if you decide to. And that's not going to do it because I'm too bright, I'm too close. I can adjust that over a bit. And there we are. And again, I'm going to grab my color checker because I want to have the accurate colors on there. Sync. Normally, I would just batch the whole lot at the start. I wouldn't do it individually. And I'll show you before and after as well. So you can see the difference. So we're a little bit colder here. And that's okay. I might just warm it slightly. And that's just bring a little bit of warmth back in to her skin. I really like that. And then I feel like she's just falling back a little bit too much. And I like that look. Really like that look. And I quite like that. Yeah, sometimes the desaturation can look too masculine, and that's what's happened here. I've just sort of previewed it. Don't really like it like the black and white, but I really like the warm color and tones there. And I would probably go further. I could even drop in a background on it if I wanted to, give it depth. This could also work as a composite image because of the way the light is. You could have the light come in behind if you want to do that sort of thing as well. So if there's any questions coming up, please put them in there. and we'll do the best we can to answer them as well. Okay, so we've gone through the video for you. We've gone through the passport video checker, which is incredibly important for your video editing. We're also gone through the color checker software for you and created profiles and how to create profiles and keep them on there as well. And you can use them in each color situation as well. You'll notice on the profile here, I'm still on Emma1. So I can go back and I can just change it to Adobe Raw or Adobe Color, which is a normal one, which is neutral. And you can see that go flat. So you can go through all these. Don't be afraid to create an experiment. I think that's a lot of the problem people have, that they won't experiment and they're a bit afraid to do that. But you can always change them. You can always create new profiles until you get the profile that you like. You can create a black and white profile, but what is really, really important is also the way you treat your images and not to go over the top and sort of scream at your images as well. We're just going to jump quickly back into Premiere because I just wanted to retouch on some of the stuff that we did there. Okay, so when you're working in Premiere Pro, the retouching, as I said before, is really, really similar. So you can see on the right-hand side how I've graded this, and I'll take you through. And this is just by eye because this was what I call a B-roll. So this isn't horrendously important, and this is not horrendously important. I'll just show you this really, really quickly, and then I'm going to show you another photo edit as well. So this is the raw stock. And because it's B-roll, it's not like what I call a master roll. So we quickly sort out the color temp and exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, want a bit of that. I have this S shape going on here and I'm going to boost that exposure. And that's all I would do for that. And then I would move on. And for my B-roll, I would cut and paste like I did before. So back to our photos. And let's have another look at 4K photo. Now, if you're in develop mode, and 6 video modes will not work in develop mode, as it says on screen. And if you scroll through your photos, this is really good for pets as well, which I've used it for several times. You know, they're running towards you, pre-focus. That's a really nice shot there, as you just scroll through. But if you pre-focus on areas as well, and you lock the focus down, you'll get some amazing shots. And this is the beauty of this technique, because you get the shots in between the shots. So we were shooting at 30 frames a second for 10 seconds. So we have got about 300 shots to choose from here. And I think that's really nice. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to capture it. And this is all done in Lightroom. So you don't have to go out and shell out money for additional video software or anything like that. You can edit this way in Lightroom, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, I've already created an image here, so I can just sync these two. Oops, go into develop mode, Ross, would help, wouldn't it? And then I can synchronize them. And that's going to come up exactly the same down the bottom. But sometimes you may not want that look. I quite like the look in black and white. I love images in black and white, as you may have worked. But we can just blow that a little bit more, and that just lifts it completely. It's a really high key image, and it's hard to believe that that was taken from a video frame. That's just a still from a video. It's not a screen grab, which is really, really important. It's a still, it's a frame from a video. Now, if we go back to actual stills and we look at different lighting situations as well. So this was the light that was directly in front. If you remember, I used the light directly in front of Emma on this shot here and on this shot here, straight in front. And this was the same lighting situation, but I've just got Emma to turn towards me a little bit. So it's almost a Rembrandt, if you like, with a little triangle on the cheek there. So you've got to manage the darkness on this side with the highlights on this side. So again, I'm going to use my color management, highlight, and I'm going to sync. I know the colors there are correct straight away, and I'm just going to rotate her a little bit because I feel like I've just had a bit of a tilt on there. I like the cropped hair, that doesn't bother me at all. And then I'm just going to manually do the adjustments here. So shadows, I'm just looking at the shadows just on her cheeks. I'm just lifting those a little bit, but trying not to make this too bright. I could do a bit of dodge and burn in Photoshop or in here if I want to, because Lightroom has become so powerful now. It's absolutely crazy. Some people use clarity. Use clarity with caution is what I say, because if I boost it, it's, you know, that's just too much. If I go the other way, it's too soft. So if you're going to use clarity, use it with caution. Can look really good with blokes, but generally with ladies, I don't think it's too good at all. If you want to desaturate, just pull that skin down, get that sort of porcelain look. That can be quite powerful as well. So rather than sort of overexposing too much, you can get this really simple look just by a couple of steps. And all we did was use our color management. We're keeping all the details, so there's nothing burnt out down here at all. We've just lifted the shadows a little bit. We've got the highlights in the eyes, so we've got the details also going down in the hair, and we've got the fabric tones and textures, and we've just pulled the color back ever so slightly, and I mean ever so slightly. You can have a look, -19, so it's very, very subtle. Okay, so there's a question from Kate. Kate, can you use the color checker passport for photo or video? Yes, you can. You need, if you're going to use a color checker passport, you want to use the photo one if you're doing stills. Video is a different beast, and that's why you need two separate ones, because they are two different mediums. So you can use the color checker passport photo for video. No, you can't. You need the color checker passport photo for photo. You need the color checker passport video for video. I hope that makes sense in my weird roundabout way. Thanks, Kate. So yes, if we sort of look at this, if we couldn't, and likewise, we couldn't use the color checker passport video for photo, so it swings and roundabouts. They are both differently printed and have sort of different purposes as well. But great question. So looking back at the images here, guys, now this image I keep going back to, which we did at the start. I look at it now, and to me it's kind of screaming out for a bit of black and white love. And your monitors may be a bit more high contrast. I've got a monitor over my head here, which I can sort of look to see what you guys are seeing, and that's quite high contrasting compared to the 271C that I'm working on here, because that is perfect, and I've got all the tones and everything looks absolutely bang on there. So if I went back, and the detail was just ridiculous, it's absolutely insane. And I just go back to Black and White Studio, I bring that up full frame, I think that looks quite incredible. And like I said earlier, I remember when I was actually doing a studio shoot, and also what happens in a studio shoot, you'll get parents come in and kids will have scars or bumps or whatever, and they also think that they should be removed. But I had a client come in, and she had this, her kid had fallen over that day. So if we can have camera 2, that would be awesome. Thank you. We had a client come in that day, and she had a bump. She'd fallen over that day, and I said to her, if I retouch that, you're going to forget that memory when you look at that in years to come. And she went away and thought about it. She had some beautiful big prints that went up framed in the house, and she came back and said, I'm so glad we kept that little mark, because it's a reminder of the fun they had that day. Even though there was a little bump on her, we've got that memory. So I don't go over the top with retouching, as you will have seen. And I think it's really, really important to sort of preserve the character of people as well, rather than going over the top. There's filters and everything out there that day, and we're almost used to sort of this post-production sort of porcelain glossy look that isn't real. And when you get a real look, I think people understand that, because that's the character of the kids and the people they love as well.
We got another question in.
So another question in is...
From Tally has asked, how often do you need to calibrate?
So Tally has asked, how often do you need to calibrate? The software will actually tell you how often you need to calibrate, or you can set yourself a reminder on how often you'll need to calibrate. I actually do it sort of once every other week, or if I move lighting situations. So we've set up in a different situation today, lighting situation, so I've recalibrated my monitor. When I go back home with this monitor, I will recalibrate that because that's in a different lighting situation. So it's the same when you use your color checkers. Every different lighting situation you go in, you recalibrate, you take a new measurement. So that's the simple. But when you're talking about your computers and stuff, every other week should be fine. And you've got the choice of the i1 Studio or the i1 Display Pro. Depends on what your needs are. For me, the i1 Studio does everything bar pour a pint, and the i1 Display will do your monitor for you as well. So it's pretty good, and it's pretty important, and it's not a religious habit to get into. It's just part of your normal working day. You come on the Monday, you calibrate your monitor, happy days, and then you're all set up. If you're doing a big print run, I would suggest calibrating before that as well, because then obviously you're talking about media that you're going to use, inks and stuff, and if you calibrate and you do a test print before that and you know it's perfect, then that's a lot better than doing a whole print run and finding that your colors are slightly off, or your glossy screen computer is slightly color shifted. So that's the way I would sort of answer that as well. Right. Just sort of going back now, guys, if you've got any more questions, make sure you keep coming them in as well. And we can sort of keep doing some edits for you too. Going back to like reds and stuff I was talking about earlier, when you're converting colors to get tones that are black and white as well, red is one of the darker tones which you'll see straight away. So obviously you've got black underneath that, but red will go straight to this beautiful beautiful grey tone color. So when you're shooting and you know you want to shoot in black and white, you don't necessarily have to shoot in black and white. And this is an uncalibrated image as well. So if I calibrate it next to this one, this is a calibrated image. I'll just bring them up side by side. He says, if I just bring them up side by side and I click on library, that makes life easier. There we are. So you can see on the left, and we've got an uncalibrated image, what actually looks slightly green if I look at it in the light here, whereas the one on the right is perfect, and that's the calibrated image. But if we go and we look at doing to the one on the left, which is the uncalibrated image, and we go into a black and white tone, we've got the highlights in the eyes. I know I bang on about highlights in eyes a lot, but it's really, really important. Skin's good. Hair's good, tone's good. Maybe should have adjusted the hand a little bit because I don't really like backs of hands. So if you're photographing hands, try and get the side of it as well, rather than just showing the back of a hand there. So that's always a good tip. Be aware of hands because they can make and break a photo as well. So having red, but knowing you're going to actually convert it to black and white is actually quite a powerful tool as well. And you've got really nice tones coming down here, but don't overcook your images. And I'm going to literally show you what's going to happen if you overcook an image. So let's take this calibrated image and we're really going to push it. So the base colors we started with are right. We've got our Emma Red profile. And I find this a lot, that you'll see on social media, and people will blow the skin so much so you can't see the detail, and it just doesn't look real. And I'm sure the people who are in it don't appreciate it either. So that is completely overcooked, and I haven't even touched the saturation levels. If we look up here, that's completely overcooked. And if we just reset that and go back, that's a much more natural image. And then if we bring that up to Emma Red, that looks natural again. We jump into our develop, and we can add various different presets we want, but I'll tend to do this one myself. And that's all you need. You don't have to go crazy to get a good look. And if you do your editing based on your skin tones and your printing based on your skin tones, you will have beautiful prints every time. Skin tones that are natural like this and that, rather than having that green or really high magenta, which you see a lot of. So if you're going to go and remember the sort of golden rules, sort of calibrate sort of once or every other week. You do need a different passport, Colorite passport photo and a Colorite passport video, 2 different tools for 2 different jobs, so you need different ones for those. When you're calibrating your electronics, your monitors, your scanner, your printer, everything that you have to create imagery, you need to have that measured as well. And just get into that habit and that mindset of thinking, and it will make your life a lot easier. It will make your print quality will go through the roof, and hopefully then obviously you're going to sell more. Your family's going to be happier because you've got those nice colors going on, and not everyone's got a fake tan, so they'll be happy with that as well. So think about that, and then think about when you're shooting your black and white that you want to get those tones for the black and white. So you need to have color to get tones, and that's why I bang on about where calibration is so important, and the monitors are so important as well. So if you have the correct monitor and tool in place, then that's going to make your editing, your conversion, your black and whites are going to be so much better as well. Your colors are going to be punchy. Everyone's going to look at your photos and go, wow, which is always nice. Also, a little tip, when you post to social media, try not to post in JPEG as well. Post as a PNG, and then it doesn't get compressed as much and it doesn't get ruined, but you cannot beat the power of a print. Holding something up that you've printed and you've put blood, sweat and tears into, and you give it to that person, they will love that so much more than just swiping through on a phone. So think about that. Think about that sort of process as well. And that'll make life extremely easy for you. So if we just sort of jump back in to our video editing, and we'll just do a really quick recap on everything we've done today. So I'm quickly going to jump into, I've lost my mouse. So we started with a video, and we looked at video editing. So if we look on the right hand side, this is our focus point, so you know that everything is sharp and focus. And video, you will use something like focus peaking to get it sharp. This is our grey card, so we know for white balancing. If we are going to use this, you want to have it close to the person's face, but this is just more for demonstration purposes. And then we've got our matrix card here, and on the left, this is to help our exposure settings as well. And this is a completely different tool than you would use for photos. This is purely for video, and it's very, very powerful. So when you're setting up, make sure you have your lights in the right place. You create a bit of depth by having a lamp behind, and then you'll see the depth that's created there. Hold it up by your subject's face, and you'll take the meter reading off that. Now, you'll realize that these are all blurry because this was shot at 1/50th of a second, and that's how you get a nice smooth video. Whereas photographers, we tend to shoot a lot higher, and we're going to get, you know, about 100th of a second in the studio. So when you're shooting in 4K or 6K photography, you're going to think like a photographer, but when you're shooting video, there is a different mindset. But the whole color management side is the same principle. So that's really cool how you can transfer that between the two. And then when we go in and we do our video and we take our readings like this, the end product, I tend to like the person I'm interviewing looking at me, because someone looking down the camera can look a bit weird at times. So I tend to like the person I'm talking to be engaging with me, and I'm normally just beside the camera there as well. And that's the way I will sort of do an interview. So it's pretty straightforward. Choose your audio track as well. Make sure it's royalty free. Don't use copyrighted audio. That's incredibly important. There's lots of sites you can sort of sign up to get those from. The other point I would make, and the fault I did do in this video, I didn't hide a microphone. I should have put a microphone around the other side, and I could have used a hair to hide the microphone, but that was a fault of mine. So obviously a deliberate fault, but it was a fault of mine which I should have changed. If we dive back into Lightroom, we'll quickly run through what we did here. So just to recap, we did a reading from a color checker, classic color checker photo. This is now, and it's a different tool to the color checker video. We did a reading and we created a profile, and that profile, then we had a whole list of different profiles that we can use and that are different to the ones on your cameras. And from that profile, we then went and edited various images. So whether they're stills that are black and white, reds, we talked about tones as well and getting the highlights correct in the eyes. We talked about the power of reds and using light to even desaturating colors as well, but being very careful when you're desaturating a female subject because it can look quite masculine as well. And what's really cool, which you don't see a lot of, we took some stills from 6K video. So this was the original video. It's not a raw video, and that's really important to point out. It's not a raw video. It's just a 6K video, 10 seconds worth, and from that we are able to pull down some stills from that as well. So if we go into that, I'll quickly show you how to do it again because I think it's incredibly powerful. With kids, bang, capture, and then you'll see another one come down below. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 photos of a potential 300. And that's a really powerful tool. Whether you're shooting wildlife, motorsports, sports, triathlon, kids, animals, whatever it may be, this is a really powerful tool that you can use, and it's cool because most cameras these days now have 4K as standard. We also talked about sort of just how we treat the colors and how sympathetic to be towards them, and how you can make it, the most simple edit can make a really powerful image. So I really hope you've enjoyed today, guys. It's been great talking to you. If you want to check out my socials, they'll pop up shortly. You can have a look. Drop me a line on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for attending today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your questions. And make sure you go over to the BenQ website. I was just looking. He just changed his screen on me. Make sure you go over to the BenQ Instagram page and the Calibrate Instagram page. Follow them, give them some likes because they're a great bunch of guys and they do amazing products. Thanks, guys.